Welcome to Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. A world where coming in second place is not an option, but where principle-centered winning is the only approach.
Good morning and welcome to Government Contracting Weekly. I'm Jim McCarthy, the owner of Key Solutions and the host of this show. Today, we are pleased to present our third annual year-end look ahead as we offer a perspective on 2015. Now, I'm joined this morning by a truly talented panel who will provide their own perspectives on the year ahead, starting first and foremost with how it will compare with 2014, as well as what will be the hot trends and issues, and of course, what will be the keys to winning in 2015. Now, joining me today to explore these and other questions, let me first introduce our first guest, Roger Krone, the CEO and member of the Board of Directors of LEIDOS. Roger, welcome to the show.
Jim, great.
Thank you for being here. Great. Roger brings nearly 40 years of operational, strategic, and financial execution experience from some of the nation's most prominent names in aerospace. Next, I'd like to welcome Angie Messer, an Executive Vice President at Booz Allen Hamilton. She's also the leader of the firm's Predictive Intelligence business line. Welcome, Angie.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here.
We are glad to have you here. And last but not least, Steve Viar, the recently retired Director of FEDSIM from GSA, where he first began back in 1978. And here we are today. So good morning to you, Steve.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. All right, panel. We have a lot to cover, so we got a whole year to cover, as a matter of fact, so let's get right to it. So the first question would be for you, Roger. 2015, looking ahead, put the crystal ball on. Is it going to be the same, better, or worse than 2014 from a government contracting perspective?
Yeah. We actually think it's going to be slightly better. All right, so a lot of issues happened in 2014, and I think there's some pent-up demand. There's some procurements that have gotten delayed. We had this midterm election. That's behind us. We're filling out the presidential cabinet. I think we'll confirm Ash Carter. I think that's going to set the stage for us to get a lot done in 2015, and that means get awards out of the PBBS system, get contracts under contract, and allow us in industry to do what we do best, and that's deliver capabilities to our customers.
Okay, great. Angie, why don't you read the tea leaves for us?
Well, I have to say I'm very much in agreement with Roger in the sense that, you know, we're not out of water, the hot water here, and I think that the industry is improving. Now, I think budget stalemates could still be an issue, and pending, if those can get passed and that the decisions can be made, I really feel that there's more stability, and I think we're seeing greater stability, and that stability, I think, means more opportunities and a positive trajectory for industry.
Okay. Steve, until recently, you were inside government looking out, but what's your perspective on what the year holds in store for us?
I think we're all in agreement on this one. I think that things are going to continue to improve. Some of the distractions around people getting used to the turmoil, I think people are used to turmoil now. And I think that they're going to get back to trying to get the job done and trying to move things forward. And a number of major initiatives are going to bear fruit, as you had made reference to. The work that's going on around cyber, the need to kind of shift to some of the internal initiatives as DoD slows down, I think is going to help as well.
So we're now all battle hardened and ready for the new year, I guess, huh? That's right. Well, we're still in the new year, but I was wondering, maybe Roger or any of you really, you just weigh in, but do you think there are any particular events in 2014 that are going to have a particular impact on 2015? In other words, they're going to bear some kind of fruit, good or bad, in the next year? Right?
Well, we saw a lot of procurement delays. We saw actually another set of protests. I think those actually move a lot of acquisition decisions into 15, and again, I think we're hopeful that those will get resolved. Those contracts will be awarded in 15, and so it'll be kind of a catch-up year. We'll get those acquisitions that were scheduled to happen in 15, but I think we'll also clean up of some of last year's business. So,
okay.
I think one of the fruits that we'll see really be effective, that was the seeds that were planted last year, particularly around innovation. I think we saw that the federal government, all sectors, are putting more emphasis on innovation. And I think on the procurement and acquisition side, those seeds that were planted, I think will bear fruit this year, particularly if there's feedback throughout the year.
Yes, okay. So, Steve, from your perspective inside, do you think we're going to see more RFPs, fewer than last year, about the same? What's your thought?
I tend to feel that they're going to be about the same, but I think that there's a chance for a lot of movement. Some of the agency MACs that were awarded during kind of the heydays of 2008, 9, 10, when everybody was doing their own vehicle, I think that those are going to be coming to an end, so you're going to see work moving, and that's going to change that landscape. And then we've still got some of the fallout from the BRAC and consolidation that I think that organizations will be looking to combine and look at new ways to get their procurements done. Okay.
In some ways, the 2016 election began the very morning after the 2014 interims were done. How does the group think that the election process, the political arena, might impact GovCon in 2015?
Yeah, you know, Jim, when we have a change in the White House, that means a lot of the presidential appointees get changed. And we've all seen this on the 4 or 8 year cycle. We run into a period of literally months, 6 months to 9 months, where very little happens. So leading up to the election, we see a lot of RFPs issued and a lot of contracts run through the acquisition process and contracts actually negotiated and put in place. Because people want to get this done before you enter that turmoil of a new White House, a new administration, and a new set of cabinet appointees.
So I guess if we see more energy coming in 2015 in anticipation of 2016, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the most important thing that's going to be benefiting the government and industry is just getting to some budget stability. I think that's just really critical for us to not only plan, but actually to make sure that we can actually focus on mission.
Any perspective on what the election might have in store for us next year in 2015?
I tend to think that it doesn't have as much effect as people are prone to think. The business of government has to go forward. There's a lot of things that are already in motion. I do absolutely agree with Roger that there's going to be a push to try to get things in place and have some stability before the new administration comes in the following year. So I think we're in a good place.
We have just about 45 seconds left. Steve, is the government in gridlock? Has it been? Will it continue to be? Or?
I have not seen that. Over the last year, in the GSA supporting other agencies role that FEDSIM has, we've seen even more demand for services and more energy around wanting to look at ways to improve the quality of the services that they're getting and different ways to deliver those services. So I do not see gridlock from where I've been sitting.
Angie, any perspective on that?
I don't think I've seen that gridlock either. I think agency by agency, the standard issues of having backlog just with the manpower that's there, that's an issue. However, I think that there's certainly a desire and a motivation to engage industry and to get those RFPs out.
Okay, well, we're going to step away for just a few minutes, and when we come back, I would like to continue this discussion, and we'll be right back. Okay.
So, did we win that government contract?
We did.
And?
And now we've got to deal with the regulatory hurdles.
Well, good luck with that.
When the government's your client, you need to play by their rules.
And the rules change more than you think.
Exactly. We need someone who's done this before. Plus, it's complicated, so we're going with BDO.
BDO?
People who know government contracting know BDO.
Working in contract management is a complex job. Creating, executing, managing contracts. It's an ever-changing world, and our members share the same challenges. At the National Contract Management Association, we know this business, gathering the best minds in our field, furthering your career by providing knowledge and training. Together, we've figured it out.
Angie Messer, question for you. What trends are going to be hot and what trends are going to be not in 2015? So what are the issues, trends, markets in 2015 that we should be looking for? Let's start with hot first.
So let's start with hot. Yeah. I think as an umbrella, I think innovation's still hot.
Innovation.
Innovation's hot. And I think it's hot in very specific mission areas that I think are critical to the government.
For example?
Cyber.
Cyber.
I think security, we are living in still a pretty dangerous and scary world. And I think it impacts not just the federal government, but commercial as well as international. So I think cyber is still a hot area. I think the second area I would say is analytics. We still have a lot of data out there in the federal government and in industry, and how the government actually tries to harness that data to actually get results, improve missioning, I think is going to be another hot one.
Mm-hmm.
I spent the last 2 years launching one of the larger cyber program attempts with the DHS CMAS program. So clearly cyber is hot. Everything will be called cyber to make it hot and get it attention if they want to get funding.
Yeah.
The data analytics is really an interesting area. I don't know that the rank and file has grabbed a hold. So to the degree that the policy leaders and thought leaders can push that into government, then I think that there will be a huge opportunity for that. And if industry can show the value that they can bring to the table for that, then it'll help.
And to your point, Steve, I think the thing is that data and the analytics around data is having a powerful impact in the commercial sector. I mean, just think about even what impacts the government and things to us globally. Let's look at Ebola. I mean, just being able to predict that, using analytics to predict outbreaks that are just going to bring better safety to this nation, there's got to be a demand for it. And I think it's important that industry brings some of those innovations that are happening, whether it's in international or in commercial clients, and bring that to the government, and then vice versa, especially when it comes to cyber, for example.
Roger, from the perspective of LEIDOS.
Well, I agree with what's hot. I guess my concern is what's not. Mm-hmm. I worry that healthcare may get lost. We know it's a huge platform for the president, and we're in the second year of the Affordable Care Act. I think that's important to all of us. And then I worry about infrastructure overall. Ports and rails and highways, and if you live in DC, we have a traffic problem. It just gets worse every year. We're not spending the dollars that we need to solve our infrastructure. And one of the things that made this country great was transportation and infrastructure, and I think we're falling behind.
Okay. So how about, so that's some maybe opportunities or market sectors. Let's talk about other trends. You think we're going to see more or fewer GWACs or multiple award contracts or IDIQs in the next year? Any thoughts on that, team?
Oh, for the first time in many years, I feel very confident that there will be less, because people don't have the money and the energy inside their agency to spend creating those duplicate vehicles. And I think that there's going to be a lot more attention on the ones that are out there now that have shown the ability to deliver quality solutions.
Okay, do you think that agencies will tend to give up their own and maybe move to a consolidated kind of vehicle? Is that what you're saying?
Already seeing some of that.
Seeing that?
Already seeing some of that, and I think it will continue. I don't think the agency multiple award contracts are going to continue the way they have.
I see. Angie, Booz Allen's all over this. What's your thought?
Well, there's two trends, I think, to your point, Steve. I think that there's clearly the bundling and there's the larger IDIQs, granted, and I think more agencies don't have the resources to do their own. But I think there's this other trend, too, is that task orders that are coming out on those IDIQs, they're going from 5 to 3 to even 1 years now. So I think we're seeing actually more task orders coming out because of the shorter time period of duration of those contracts.
Okay.
The concern that we have is the transaction costs in GovSpace. I have both government and commercial, and the additions and overhead and G&A that I have to spend to do business on the government side takes funds away from delivering solutions to the end user. And we're looking for places where the government can reduce those transaction costs. And as we look at the multiple award contracts where you have duplication and you spend so much time in the front end of the acquisition, it's just something that can't continue. And so, especially with the 2 years that we have left in this administration, we see fewer IDIQs, more task orders underneath those. They're going to buy more and get more product and mission services and spend less on the front end of the process.
I see. Okay. So if we could look at 2015, folks, for a second, who do you think is going to have the best chance of success and of prosperity? Would it be a large business, a mid-sized, mid-tier business, or small businesses? How does it strike you that we're looking, the year is going to shape up in that regard? Angie?
I don't think it's so much about the size as about the type of company.
Okay.
I think companies that actually are looking at commodity is going to be different from companies that are trying to bring value-added capability to the government to help them solve their mission. So I think that's how I'd shape it. And those that actually bring innovations, new ideas, better ways to do business, and to help those missions, I think those are the companies that are actually going to thrive.
You know, I think that's true, but I would love to be a small business.
And why so?
Why? We're seeing the small business set-asides increasing in every contract, and we tend to be a large prime, and the percentage that we have to allocate to small business and disadvantaged small business, veteran-owned, and what have you, kind of increases every year. And we have mentor protege programs. It's really to our benefit to be competitive in the Fed space to nurture the small businesses. And there have been times where I thought, well, maybe I ought to stop what I'm doing and go start a small business, you know, or have a member of my family start a small business, because I think it's a terrific time. And a lot of innovation, Angie, as you pointed out, a lot of that innovation starts in somebody's garage and grows from there. So, yeah, I just think maybe across the country, it's a great time to be small. And we love being big, and we're going to survive, and we're going to get our fair share. But the government, especially the administration, has really had this focus on small.
Wait, if I could just peel up that, I think
you
the
can
point.
Hold.
Okay.
How about if you hold that thought for this next break?
You got it.
So we're coming back to Angie then. Okay, we're going to step away, and we'll be right back.
Since 1941, the USO has been lifting the spirits of America's troops and their families. Members of our military continue to make sacrifices and defend our nation. That's why the USO of Metropolitan Washington, Baltimore is committed to serving them throughout their years of service. USO Metro is the way for you to say thanks to our local military members, their families, and our wounded warriors and caregivers. Please visit us at usometro.org.
The Veteran Institute for Procurement was established to arm our vets to win in the federal marketplace. VIP is a comprehensive educational training program for veteran-owned businesses, and it's working as graduates add jobs and grow revenue. The program is funded entirely by the Montgomery County Chamber Community Foundation and is offered entirely at no cost to participants. To learn more, please visit our website at nationalvip.org.
Welcome back, GovCon audience. Before I so abruptly moved us to a break, Angie, you were making a point. Why don't you go ahead?
Well, Roger's point about small business I think is a great one. However, I wanted to put a slightly different angle. I think we need to take a look at the startup community. We need to take a look at, really, I'd say, the broader ecosystem around innovation. Whether it's VCs, whether it's startups or small businesses, whether it's large businesses or high-tech companies. I think the key here is being able to partner together, collaborate together to really bring innovations in. But I wouldn't underestimate startups.
I see. Steve.
Well, the impression that I got from Roger's statement was just kind of compounded by Angie's focus on innovation. The administration seriously is pushing small business goals. We saw it heavily in 14, and I'm sure we're going to see it continue into 15. I think the innovation is important, especially since we're talking about cyber, and we probably haven't really touched on cloud today, which is interesting that that's kind of fallen back. But I think that there is a big chunk of the mid-size or small-large, since there's officially no mid-size, that are going to be overlooked in this if we're not careful. They have innovation that hasn't necessarily been fully developed or fully evolved. I just think that overly focusing on the small business runs the danger of leaving those mid-size out, and possibly in the area of the innovation that maybe it's startups and maybe it's some of those mid-size.
You're suggesting that there may be a sort of a middle ground or a zone between the smalls and the bigs, and that it's a hard time for the mid-sized companies.
That group has complained that it's been a tough place for a long time. I don't think we're doing anything to make it any better.
Okay. Well, is this will 2015 be a good year for a small or to get into business, or for a mid or large to get into another market sector? What do you think? Yeah.
Well, Angie's talked about it, and I think that point was good. Is that it is in certain areas, and in other areas it's not. If you just look at typical barriers to entry, the federal business is not the easiest markets to enter because of the compliance issues that you have to deal with. And in the startup community all the way through the mids, if it's software related, if it's systems engineering, if it's a lot of if you will, human thought content, it's a good time to enter. If you have to build a factory, if you have to build infrastructure, you have to pour concrete, I'm not sure this is a good time to enter. So just like in the startup community, these are software and services type of entrance, but
it's a function of the core competency and assets.
But we still need innovation in hardware and platforms and products, and I don't think we see enough entrance in those areas.
I would agree on the platforms too, but we should talk about cloud. We should talk about digital. There's a digital transformation actually happening in the government and in the commercial sector. So new entrants, if they can bring new capabilities in how to leverage software as a service, leverage the cloud, leverage the digitization, I mean, digital citizen, the digital workforce, those are all pretty significant. And so if you're a new entrant and you've got something to offer, I think that'll be very relevant.
Talking about having something to offer, we have a very competitive audience. I mean, they're made up of people who are trying to win government contracts or administer them. So what would be some suggestions, practical suggestions, that they should keep in mind as the year 2015 unfolds? What do you think would be some keys to winning, as I like to say?
I just think it's going to be extremely important for any startups or innovation to be very focused and have a very clear business plan, because otherwise you're going to get lost in the shuffle. So I would tell them to know where they're going, do their homework. We talked earlier about the movement of opportunities and where the acquisitions are going to come out of. I think that upfront research is going to be critical to anybody being successful as a startup.
I think my advice is don't go it alone.
Don't go it alone.
By
that you mean?
I think partner. I think if you're a new entrant, find folks, do your homework, but teaming is important, and partnering and collaborating. I think there's a big benefit to co-investing together to really solve hard client problems.
Yeah, from a big company's perspective, what would you say?
Well, going back to small, I think if you have a differentiated capability, it's a great place to enter. But for most of us, and I think we've seen this trend for a long time, is that we see technical leveling through the acquisition process. And because of the success of protests against best value decisions, we're really seeing this emergence of what we call lowest price, technically acceptable. So in a lot of acquisitions, everybody makes it through the first gate, or most people make it through the first gate to be technically acceptable, and they make their final decision on price. All right? So in order to play, I think, going forward, everybody's got to be, if you will, best in class from an affordability standpoint. And that's actually sometimes a benefit to the small. They don't have pension plans, they don't have the kind of benefits that we do, they don't have the infrastructure.
Don't have the overhead.
They don't have the overhead. So if they can play right, they can be differentiated and innovative and be lowest cost. But for the bigs, we've all developed some significant technical capabilities. I tell you, a lot of emphasis through the industry on making sure that we're affordable.
Roger, do you really see the LPTA wave kind of continuing into 15? I kind of felt like over the last 6 months of this year, I saw
the pendulum swing back, maybe?
Starting to move back towards best value. I think anytime DoD pushes out policy at a very high level, then we saw that kind of shrink back and go LPTA because they thought low price was what was there. But we've heard a number of executives come out and say it's not about LPTA. On the show and in many other public forums. So I kind of have high hopes that it's not going to be that way.
We've got better buying power 3.0, which is about innovation.
Once again, I have to exercise the heavy hand of the moderator and say we're going to have to step away, but we're going to come back. I'm going to ask for some predictions from all three of you. Okay, we'll be right back. It's no surprise to any of you that social media has impacted virtually every aspect of our personal lives. Sure, you can say there are both pluses and minuses, but this is the world we live in, and absent a move to a deserted island, there's no getting around it. What is surprising, though, is how some in the government contracting community have not yet fully embraced social media as a business strategy, not only to advance your brand, but also to help win and retain business with your federal customers. At Key Solutions, we believe that social media has to be an integral part of your business development plan. We also believe that while this technology is advancing like a high-speed train, you can either jump on board or watch your competition leave you in the dust. If you are a federal contractor looking to integrate a social media strategy into your business, we will be able to help you. Contact us at aockeysolutions.com.
FCA has been bringing government and industry together since 1946. By joining FCA, you'll reach the decision makers and become part of the discussion. You'll increase market visibility, gain market insight, receive discounts on FCA member services and events, and manage and engage corporate associates. FCA is the association of choice. Join today at www.fca.org.
Time for final predictions for 2015. Steve, what would be your prediction?
So whatever name it goes by, consolidated purchasing, strategic sourcing, or category management, as is now coming out of OFPP, I think that is a trend that is going to be very strong in 15. My only concern is that it may slow down individual procurements and acquisitions that might have gone faster on their own path.
Okay, Angie, your prediction for 2015?
Well, I've been saying it all morning, and that is about innovation. I think it is here to stay, and I think the appetite's only going to increase. And I think it's important around key mission areas that I think are critical to the nation. We've talked about cyber. We've also talked about health. Even though I know we had different opinions about health, I still think it's a national priority. And I do think the digital movement that's there is going to be an important part for innovation, to include the analytics.
Roger, your final word on your final prediction.
Well, first, as I've done most of the morning, I agree with Angie. I think R&D budgets are going to go up, and we're going to see more innovation coming out of the FedGov space. But to really go out on a limb, I think we're going to see Capitol Hill start to function. We're going to see the House and the Senate actually work together. I think as we get through the summer into the fall cycle, we're going to see a bill before the end of the fiscal year, and it's going to be of a nature that the President will sign, and so we'll see more stability in the budget, which will be good for all of us.
And my final prediction is 2015 is going to be a great year for government contracting. Anyway, that brings us to the end of our look ahead to 2015, and it certainly seems like the most appropriate time to wish all of our viewers a happy and healthy and prosperous new year. And hopefully the great input from our outstanding panel today should give us all a reason to look forward to 2015. So I want to thank Steve Viar, the recently retired director of FEDSIM from the General Services Administration. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thanks, Jim. It's been great.
Next, Angie Messer, the executive vice president at Booz Allen Hamilton, where she leads the firm's predictive intelligence business line. Thank you for being here, Angie.
Thank you, Jim.
Hope you enjoyed it. And last but not least, Roger Krone, the CEO and a member of the board of directors at LEIDOS. Thank you as well, Roger.
Thanks, Jim. It was great.
Thank you very much. But most importantly, I want to thank you, our viewers, for once again making Government Contracting Weekly a regular part of your learning regimen. Now, on behalf of all my colleagues at Key Solutions, I'm Jim McCarthy, and remember that you can reach us anytime at aockeysolutions.com. We'll see you down the road.
You've been watching Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored each week by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. For additional information, comments, questions, or suggestions, please write us at governmentcontractingweekly.com.